Well, there was suddenly not I cannot call it an urge, but there was this point of view that I felt like I needed to address in a way. See, I thought, what about making a video about the so-called this infamous being called the devil? Right? A lot of people keep talking about it, and I only see the same childishness of, people who don't know things, but they lack attention, so they want attention, so they're gonna invent things. See, when people talk about the devil, it is always the devil's fault about everything bad that happens into the world, because those people are usually idiots who expect a, white bearded fuck to wave some magical wand up there beyond the skies and the clouds, somewhere in the depths of space, and they wait this so-called God to, solve every little problem in the world. See, religion was created for, the hundreds of generations to come, to convince you to be an idiot that waits for someone to return, right? See, everyone is waiting for Jesus to return. The Jewish people are waiting for their Yahweh to return. I'm not sure Islam who they're waiting for, probably for their prophet Jesus. But the point is, neither of these will return. They have lived their physical life. They have attained mukti, the great form of existence where you re-become one with creation. They're not gonna come back, okay? The only way they're gonna come back is through Project Bluebeam, when it's gonna be fired up and every nation in the world will see a big blue illusion on the sky, depicting a so-called Jesus or whatever, and all the people crazed up. You will see how much murder and terror they can actually create because they're so convinced that being is gonna come back, and it's not gonna come back, right? Now they're fooling you just like in the old times that, you know, when you think something bad, the devil has control over you. No, the devil doesn't even exist, okay? Screw these illusions, screw the, great three Abrahamic religions, okay? This idea of an Abrahamic religion was imagined a lot of thousands of years ago by someone called Zarathustra. And well, its name is pronounced differently in different languages, and he said that there is one big creation, aka one entity that created everything, and they have one big arch nemesis, which is basically anti-creation. Now there was an old belief long time ago called Satanism. Now Satanism promoted the idea that men and women are gods and goddesses. They have immense potential, but they never should live becoming obsessed with the so-called materialism. And if they do, they become slaves of me, or the so-called devil, as they called it, right? That's what the religion would say. If you become slaves of the material, you become obsessed with those, you become therefore my slaves, right? The slaves of impulses, right? The slaves of control. But, the so-called devil never said that you will become a slave forever and that you will never be able to, release yourselves from that thing, because the Satanism would say that, well, it's a very old belief, not the present day Satanism. The old belief would say this, and you would be able to free yourself, because all of those urges, all of those impulses are there in your head, right? They're in your mind. They're not given by someone else, right? Present day Satanism is focused a lot on the pagan culture of the Khazari, which include a lot of sacrifices, include the idea of killing those that you don't like, includes the idea of not only sacrificing others or just killing them for pure pleasure, which is something that also the billionaires of this world have been repeatedly, presented to do this. And suddenly and miraculously, all those pieces of news about this would vanish, right? It's all about so-called eating the pain, right? They have created an occult yantra, as the Indians would call it, right? The Indians call yantra a machine, or a vehicle, better said, a being that you create in order to serve you a certain purpose, so that you can spiritually focus on other things. When they have created this so-called Satan they are worshipping it because, it isn't a yantra in its own way, right? It is not built in a way that it doesn't crumble, right? It is dissipating because probably these fuckers don't know how to build a yantra entirely. A yantra means something that is stably designed, right? It doesn't need any more focusing on it. And this so-called matrix that we live in, it is the same with the God that you're worshiping as well as with the Satan, because when you think of these concepts, you are feeding the so-called matrix. You're a being with, unspoken possibilities and potential. You've got so much power. Why do you think they need to tie you down with a useless job, with instant gratification? They need to toxify your body with polluted air, polluted water, polluted foods, chemicals, and the such. And here you are, you're still kicking. Biology is far superior to the cybernetic because biology constantly adapts itself, constantly changes itself. When you choose to become a machine, well, the problem is the machine will not adapt much, right? You need someone else to create those updates for you. What if one day they decide to no longer do it, right? So this so-called devil of the today, it was designed also as a means of lying to yourself, right? How does this work? Very simple. See, when people don't know how to understand something and they can't perceive something, what do? They invent something, right? When they can't understand their impulses, their urges, they will say that the devil comes to you and, they urge you to do that, right? The Bible itself says don't blame the devil for their tempting you because it is you who does the actions, right? So the devil technically doesn't have any fault, right? If creation, religion, if religion portrays them as someone who must tempt, they're just doing their job. They don't have any fault, right? You should look within you and see why you're doing those temptations, right? Because they're not breaching anything within you. They're only helping you with your pain. See, that is a good teacher, right? A teacher who can teach you through pain is something very powerful, right? That's one reason why, for example, there are the so-called mistresses in the world, and that's a reason why people have to suffer, right? Because when you suffer and you can't understand something, if you're an ignorant, you're not going to do anything to improve your life, right? You're not going to do anything. You're just going to keep suffering, and probably it will become your comfort zone because you're not suffering hard enough, right? When you're being broken out of that sufficient pain, you're going to start to learn on things, right? You're going to start to desire, to want to get out of that painful situation. And you're going to try to do changes. You're going to fail, but you're going to keep at it. Because if the pain is sufficient enough, you're like boiled water, you're going to acquire a shape that will allow you to free yourself of those boiling conditions. Now, another silly thing that, people tell you about the so-called devil is, besides tempting you, it's exactly like the ego, right? The ego is technically the same as the devil because the ego is a representative of your impulses, right? The devil is a representative of your impulses, of your carnal impulses. As long as you live in nature, you will have carnal impulses because you will live by the laws of this physical body. You will have cravings, you will have sexual cravings, you will have spiritual cravings also. You will have mental cravings of all sorts of kinds and sorts, right? Because you live in this physical body, you live by its rules, right? Even a yogi has all these. Even someone who's very close to reaching, the ultimate in this physical body, they still have those. It's just that they are very aware of those impulses and know therefore how to handle those. When you're not aware, you're gonna have a hard time, right? It's gonna come again and you're not gonna know what to do, so probably you're gonna repeat that obsession again. So the very simple point is, people tell you about this ego, right? This ego is just something that, it's a blamable material, as I call it, right? When someone does something, they fell into their ego, right? And now they have the lower self and the so-called higher self. And humans are so silly, the prison of the mind will always force you to create new concepts, even more synonyms for everything that you can't understand, right? There are civilizations in the world that I heard they have multiple synonyms for love. I say that's stupid. Love is just one single vibration. You either vibrate at it or you're just manifesting, obsessions about something. Smaller or bigger, they're still obsessions, right? You either love or not. That's the point. Nothing else matters much. Now, when it comes to the so-called devil, they say that, the devil comes under the form of a snake or under the form of a lion, right? Snake and lion are typically deserts or towards desert creatures, right? So they kind of make me feel that these creatures are more representative of, Oriental cultures or cultures that live more or less around deserts or sub-desert regions. I don't know why, for example, Christianity would present the so-called devil as a snake. We don't have that many snakes in our, in Europe. Well, there are obviously species, but it is supposed to be a venomous snake. I'm not sure how many of those species are in Europe compared to Africa, probably Asia, South America, the equatorial region in general, or places where there are deserts, because there are some snakes, well, not necessarily deserts, sub-desert regions, savannas more specifically, I'd say. Depends. And they're not tied only to those, but for example, in Christianity, it's much better, for example, or in Europe, it's much better to, portray the devil as a fox, right? You have the quote, sly as a fox. But it doesn't matter what you compare it with. See, this very simple point in life is, when people don't understand something, they have to blame it on something because, they're not ready or willing to take responsibility for their actions and improve their life. So they will need these sacrificial materials, right? These blamable materials, right? The devil, the ego, all sorts of these idiotic things. So the devil will never come to you as a lion because a lion is a representative of, everything that is somewhat pure, right? The lion doesn't come to you in the shape of arrogance, right? And the devil, in a way, would be a representative of arrogance, right? The devil doesn't come to you as a form of intimidation. They come to you as a form of weakness, right? Craving attention. The lion doesn't crave your attention. The lion doesn't care about their attention. See, the lion has two signals: their physical strength, their appearance, basically, and, well, obviously, their voice. Because they don't necessarily need to attack you. If they just stare at you, most likely you're on their territory, and they're a bit curious. People forget that animals have curiosity. They're not interested in hurting you. Well, if they're hungry, probably a snack would be good, but in between wasting their energy on you as a human, which is basically gonna be a snack, and a buffalo, I think they'd prefer to, focus their energy on a buffalo more because it can give them the nutrients that they need. They're gonna be probably like a snacks, like a few snacks. It's not gonna count much. And animals are very wary of their energy levels because if you fail a hunt, well, you're probably not gonna be able to hunt for too many more times. So, they're gonna stare at you because it's a sign you're, venturing in their territory. If you move away, they're not gonna be interested much in you, unless they're hungry, but, well, that's a different story. If they roar, well, you probably cross the line. If they roar, they're gonna trigger within you, self-preservation protocols, which means that you're gonna be stunned. You're not gonna be able to move because that is the power, right? If you're fearful of death, that is gonna affect you and you're gonna feel that stun. If you're wary of things, you have a certain vibration of life. You are beyond your impulses and the futility of the mind. The tiger, the lion, the animals won't even bother much without you because they know that outside of your minds, you're not gonna be a challenge. You're not gonna be a threat, better said, because you now belong partly to other planes of existence. And they're gonna cherish that, they're gonna honor that, right? Because depending on which chakras of your body you serve, you augment, you represent, certain animals will be very drawn to you. Snakes will be drawn by your voice, right? If you have a very powerful throat chakra, they will be drawn to you. You'll see that there will be snakes that you can't see, that they will get to you. Snakes that you can't visually see. They will come and they will, you know, play around you. Probably even, you know, move around your throat because they're very attracted to that. There are energy forms, life forms, even beyond what you can physically see. You can see only 0.035% of the visual light spectrum, right? So a lot of people will fool you with this idea that what you see is what it is. No, that's only idiots, okay? Idiots think like that. The devil will come to you. Well, I don't think this is actually true. See, the devil doesn't ever come to you because you bear a part of the devil through the physicality, through your carnality, right? That's why they say, you know, in a twisted way, they say that you are born evil, right? You're not born evil. Very, 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 very few cases of children have been seen that, they were evil from birth, but that counts more on their parents' karma, on their own karma as well. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily born so. But the very simple point is, you'll be fooled with all sorts of things because people can't understand so many things, so they have to invent things, right? So that they feel they are now entitled to the attention that they more or less deserve. So when it comes to this so-called devil, it is not gonna show themselves to you. If you fuss a lot about it, like a lot of Christians do, for example, or a lot of religious people may think that, the devil is after them, this, that. When you obsess about things, you're gonna have dreams about it. Because when you obsess about things, the mind will simply seek to remove those. See, what an obsession is, it is a very great desire, but which remains unfulfilled. Unfulfilled things have to also be purged by the mind, right? The mind also cleanses itself. Now, dreams are in a way like a translator, but I think it's not the most suitable word. When you have dreams, that shows that your mind is simply cleansing itself of, unfulfilled desires and the such. Because the point is, when you have these dreams, it means you've been fussing about a lot of things but not taking much action. The more spiritual you become, the less you dream. The more truly spiritual you become, the less you dream, basically. Because a lot of people think they're spiritual, but they're just still slaves of the mind, doing this, doing that, acting like a machine. And, there are thousands of layers to ignorance, right? There are thousands of layers, consequently, to spirituality. Because spirituality and ignorance are the same thing, right? Ignorance is, going downwards on that, let's say, on those stairs, right? The stairs of awareness, let's say. Ignorance is going down, spirituality is typically going up. And obviously there are, like the levels in RPGs, right? Except, well, when it comes to spirituality, you can also go down the stairs. You can get trapped yourself. You can trap yourself in, mind prisons and the such. That is why people need multiple lifetimes. Now, hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness, okay? Just remember, the devil doesn't show themselves to you. They've got other things to do, just like God. God won't show himself to any human being. When they say in the Bible, or whatever other creation of the humans, that God shows himself to someone, probably they fussed too much about what creation looks like and they started having dreams. A very primitive mind will see those dreams as prophetic dreams. And then every piece of misery starts, unfolding in their life. And since humans are very attracted to mysticism, it's very easy to present yourself as someone who has seen God, and a lot of primitives will come to you because they'll see you as a flickering light, right? A potential salvation. And that's how you create this Borg collective that will forcefully, draw more and more people into your existence, into their existence, well, not in yours, right? Because, Christianity forced a lot of people throughout history to believe in the so-called gods. Islam did this thing as well, right? A lot of conquest, a lot of things for a god that doesn't exist. Yet they're very convinced that they exist, right? And then they create the warriors, right? The warriors who, they're exempt from killing, because when you kill people who don't believe in your religion, well, that's no longer a crime, right? Because they have turned this so-called god into a tool that serves their sense of justice. Well, hopefully this video kind of brought in a bit of awakening, a bit of awareness, or whatever you call it. I'm gonna quit this video now. I've been almost flooded by thoughts that I could present, and I don't want to create hour-long videos again. So hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness, and, well, enjoy. There's other content on the channel that you may feel drawn to, so please feel free to view any of it as well. This being said, take care, enjoy life, and, well, wishing you an awesome day. Ferencan Board signing out.